Because I don't have much time, I would like to ask you for a favor. Close your eyes and please sit back in your seat comfortably. I would like you to close your eyes with me. And with me, I would like you to breathe deeply, at least 3 times, because I would like to feel your presence. I would like to say, for a start, thank you very much, Sandra, for inviting me to be here, and thank you to all the speakers that I heard so far, because I really felt something like the penny dropping inside of myself, and it's always difficult. Then you think, oh my God, now next is me, what I'm going to say. Well, the purpose for me being here today is to share my story. I learned so much from other people's story, and I felt every single time so thankful they had enough courage to get out of their comfort zone and share with the world what their story was. It's not easy. It's not easy to stand here, and sometimes it's not easy to sit there. But today I would just like to share with you what happened to me, and I want to take you to an extraordinary place, which is my vision. As so many of us heard today, that vision is important. I have a very long name, so it can be something that is an advantage or a disadvantage. My name is Gabriella Guglielminotti Trivel, and I come from Italy, and well, it is a difficult name even for Italians, so you can imagine in UK. But hey, what do? You can complain about it, or you just take it as an advantage, as I decided to do, and I thought it's going to become my advantage because it's so complicated and long that once somebody gets it, we'll never forget it. So because I trained in neurolinguistic programming, I understood how it works, you know, it's all the power of your mind and how you do those tricks, consciously or unconsciously. So I decided after my training that I would make anybody pronounce my name, whatever their nationality, and I do regularly. And it's funny how just by give a bit of encouragement to people, how they really actually do. And having obviously the expectation from this side that they will pronounce it, they do. So that's the first lesson for you, you know, out of what I'm sharing is, if you have great expectations, they will possibly take to something great. If you have no expectation, nothing of major importance will happen. So, okay, I promise you to share my story with you. Originally from Italy, I was born in Turin, which is a town in the north of Italy. You might maybe know it because of Juventus football team or a car manufacturer, Fiat. But there are many other reasons why Turin is famous, but they're not so well renowned. But one of them, which I've loved, is that Turin has got the second biggest Egyptian museum in the world, only second to the one in Cairo, which is not many people know, but I think it's a remarkable feat for such a city. Anyway, my journey, it's a long journey, and it's difficult sometimes to decide where do I start. Because I don't have much time, I think I would just start from me ended up in this country. I was born in Italy, but through my travel, I met a British man, and so I decided to move to London. And as being a very adventurous person, it was a very exciting time, moved to a new city. I never wanted to live my life in Turin anyway, so great challenge. But before I knew, I found myself in this relationship that wasn't what I was expecting. And as for, it happens to many women, it just becomes easier to let it be and to let it go. And you lose your identity, and you lose yourself. And this happens because ultimately, I understood this much later, you don't know what your values are. And you don't set your boundaries, and you look maybe at the surface, what you see, but you don't take the time to really go in and see what drives you, and as a consequence understand if the person on the other side is driving you as well, rather than the other way around. Well, in my case, the other person on the other side that I chose, who became also my husband, was driving me, and I lost myself on the way. And this way was kind of painful. And ultimately ended up with divorce, which I'm sure some of you might have been through or know what ins and outs are. But what that moment, that situation made for me was that I find myself in so much pain, and so that paralyzed me. But it takes you down to a point where, as Malak said, you have to listen to the silence and stand still. And I wrote my pain, and by writing my pain, I found my power. And my power was realizing I had to stand, do nothing, but just stand and recognize myself as a human being who also happens to be a woman and also happens to have great ambitions, great projects, but I left them behind. So it was a deep, long and tough moment for me, but as other speakers punctualized it very well, like Edda, through the difficulty you find your strength, and otherwise it's almost like through the darkness you see the light and you appreciate it. Through being in pain, you can start imagining what pleasure is, and then when you find pleasure again, you really appreciate it. And it fits you, and also you start hearing your heart. You know, it just doesn't do simply it beats, but it knocks on your door if you listen. So I came out of this period of challenge, and life is unbelievable. And I heard of this group of people going to Antarctica. And I thought, oh, by the way, by then I had already trained in neuro-linguistic programming, so I was all triggered by this challenge of challenge yourself, put your mind in action and all the rest of it. And so I thought, oh, that would be a good one for me, to challenge myself firsthand and really see what I can do. Instead of just, it's all a theory until you put it into practice. So before I knew, 2 days after my second court hearing, I found myself signing up for this expedition to Antarctica. And this group was a small group of people, partly from Australia and UK and Europe as well, led by 2 Australian guys. One of them had been himself to the North and South Pole. And so he knew the area a bit. And the other one was a mentor and a millionaire who actually teaches people how to become financially free. All that to me back then seemed so appealing and so interesting, and so I had to sign up. And I learned many things on that trip because the unforeseeable happened, and I think the best thing for me today is to give you some of the moments I lived there. They say a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? So what I would like to do is to show you some of the pictures that I got out of that trip, combined with some of the lessons that I put in my book. Because after I came back from the trip, I did write a book, but I'll tell you in a minute. So in this book called Antarctic Odyssey, A New Beginning, I actually squeeze the essence of myself, and I make a juice, and I put it in. Of course, it relates what happened during my trip, but mainly is an uncensored story of what really happened to me intimately. So more than an outer journey, a geographical journey, it's been an inner journey. I'm just going to read it, and the pictures will speak by themselves. When I follow my heart desires, I discover my destiny. When I follow my dreams and stick to my values, magic appears in my life. Lack of balance creates fear and anxiety. When I am true to myself, courage replaces fear. The tougher the situation, the quieter I have to be. Things can appear out of the blue at the right time. Surrendering to the higher force is the wisest thing to do. By observing myself with detachment, I become my best friend. Reality is never as bad as I think. When I'm present, the difficulties created by my mind disappear. When I follow my inner voice, my life flows. My thoughts create my reality. I choose the right situation to push myself and grow. When my mind and my heart are one, I can achieve my dream. Whatever I feel is right, even if I don't know the reason for it. By the way, that has been my home for a week in Antarctica. Listening to my body is always right and wise. Life is made by many moments, all equally important. If something appears to be big, I stop, I breathe, and look again with fresh eyes. All I need is inside me. I can't miss anything. Less is better, like quality is better than quantity. My heart is my best friend, with the right advice at the right time. My mind is like a horse and needs to be ridden properly. Whenever I master my mind voice, I master my life. Living life to the fullest is my winning choice. Life is a dance involving myself and others. I have the ultimate power, therefore I'm free. The higher my perspective on things, the more I understand. Resting is a wise way to invest my energy. When I slow down, I gain in quality of life. My outer life reflects my inner life. When I am tired, I trust my unconscious to guide me. Whenever I choose to be me, I make my life easier. I am the result of my habits, therefore I choose them carefully. Little habits are the most difficult to eradicate. because they are unconscious. What I think of myself is what really matters in my life. I accept to be uncomfortable with the world at times, as I can't control it. Life is a journey of the heart. The mind is only a helper, and the soul is the adventurer. So here I was, going through this wonderful journey of a lifetime, and I came back to Brixton. At the time I was living in London, and I was living in Bristol. And I found it really difficult to kind of to readjust, and not only that, I was unconsciously trying to actually make myself go back into the box that I was before. But of course I grew out of that box. I couldn't fit back in, and it was impossible for me. And I reached another point when my heart wanted to be heard, and so knocked on the door of my soul. And so here I was in a breakthrough moment again, very challenging, and really to understand who was I, what was I here to do. So I had to stop again and listen. And by doing that, one day I realized, in a very quiet moment, I realized that I call myself flying inspiration. And so I thought, well, flying inspiration. What about the flying? It was always on my list of things that I wanted to achieve, to become a pilot. So what would I wait? There must be an age limit, so better do something about it. And that was a strange realization that showed me that the moment you make a decision, something magic really happens. After I realized that, an hour later, I was called by somebody I barely knew who just was happening to be in Italy to pick up a plane. And I was bound to go home for my birthday. And so we met, and so 2 days later, I made that decision that I wanted to learn to fly. I was flying in a plane. And funnily enough, that wasn't enough. I was flying in a plane, but I was also flying in the same part of the world, about Lake Como, where years earlier I promised myself, because I wanted to surprise my husband, so I gave him a ride in a seaplane. And I remember sitting in the back seat on that seaplane that day and saying to myself, someday I will be in the flying seat. I will be sitting in the front on the left-hand side where the pilot sits. And so just a few years later, I find myself sitting in a plane, not in the pilot seat, in the co-pilot, but after having made a decision that I want to learn to fly. Why do I share this with you? Because if it happens to me, it can happen to anybody. And it's not easy, because when I realized that, I didn't have a very thick pocket with lots of money in it at all. For the following year, I had opportunity after opportunity to fly for free. Obviously, it was something that my soul was involved with it. And so don't be scared of dreaming big or having something that you might not have the money for, because if it's your thing, it will come your way. So that was the first thing that kind of reopened my hope and made me feel better. But that wasn't enough. Because again, my next level was, of course, to learn to fly. But there was something else. I came across a lady called Alexandra Pope, and she developed a body of work about the menstrual cycle. And because I went through a very challenging time years before, I was missing my cycle. And so I, having been in personal development for a long time, in alternative medicine and all the rest of it, I expressed a desire to please be enlightened and to be sent my way some kind of information that would really help me to go to the next level, understand my body and know more about it, because I knew it was something important. And so there I was, 2009, and I found myself reading a conference call information in in an email, and of this call calling that was about the wisdom of menstruation. So I listened to this, and because I thought it was pertinent to, it was time for me to find out more about it. I felt drawn to it. So I listened to that, and then I decided to go to the training by this lady. And what happened when I did that, again, I heard my heart talking to me, calling, and I went. And that day, I really had such an insight. Why? Because, as I mentioned, I've been in personal development for a long, long time. And I spend a fortune in being trained by so many trainers and learning this technique and the other therapy and this and that and that. But till that day, I never realized that majority of these people who are great are men. And I happen to be a woman. And there is a difference between the two, right? I don't know if you noticed, but I did, or I definitely did that day. And so I found myself realizing so many things. It was just like a brainstorm, and the whole day I was just realizing why so many things happened to me, and the ins and outs of them, and I could understand and feel eventually grounded, and I felt deprived that this information, which is so basic, but it was never handed over to me before. I don't know how many women in this room have been initiated or anything about the feminine cycle. Anybody of you? Well, it seems nobody. And so I realized that I had two choices, either to grieve and feel deprived, or to do something about it. And so I decided that I wanted to do something active to spread the word, because I realized how much that information really changed my life in a practical, simple way. As women, we work in a different way. Our body drives us during the month through different energies. And if we don't know what goes on in our body, it's really difficult to master anything. Because you're just feeling like kind of, sometimes there's something taking over you and you become another person, or there are things that come to you that you think, that you say, and they don't resonate with you. And if you don't know what is actually happening and how wondrous your body is, life can become a prison, and it can be really difficult. Without mentioning that you can be in pain as well. So since 2010, I started doing workshop, personal session with women to open them up to this new awareness that is not new. It's as old as the world, by the way. Nobody would be here today if it wasn't for a woman menstruating, right? But it's such a taboo subject for whatever reason. And I can tell you why it's possibly taboo. Anything that is taboo generally has got power. And there's a lot of power in that simple biological fact that you might think, oh, well, you just put up with it. It's not. It's the life force. Connects us, all of us, as women, to the life force that creates life, everything that is around us. And so, to go back to the next level, what was my next level? Well, I became aware of my vision. And I would like, with your permission, to share it with you today. And I would like you to listen and see if anything of my vision resonates with you. Why? Because, like any vision, as powerful as we can be, We can't do it alone. And so my vision is to create the woman of the 21st century, who is a woman who lives happily and empowered in her body, feels great in her skin, and knows her values. So knows her identity, knows what she wants, and how she wants to live her life. And to be able to do this, I know I will need the help of many women out there, and men as well. Because, by the way, it's not just something that concerns women, because any man deals with women every day. And if you're not aware of what goes on in a woman's body, it's very difficult sometimes to understand and to be a good partner, a good colleague, a good friend, a good son, a good father, etc., etc. So I would like to finish with sharing with you my vision of the woman of the 21st century. The woman of the 21st century is the woman of the next generation. She is beautifully strong. She acts according to her soul purpose. And because of that, she is irresistibly magnetic and engages in empowering relationships with men and women. She gives birth every day to her reality. She pays attention to her feelings, and her feelings guide her to create what she wants. She does it through relationships that help her to discover more about herself. Relationships are her tool in the playground of life. Her feelings are her strength. They complement her intellect. They are a precious source of inner guidance. She is clear about her vision and purpose. Therefore, she is a beautiful inspiration. How does she do all this? She is in contact with her womb. She is aware of her cycle. She acts following its energetic flow. She elegantly flows in the river of life, guided by herself, her center, and this makes her a magnet, a beacon of inspiration rather than perspiration. Do you like the picture? Does it sound enticing? Does it make you feel good? I can smell the scent of this woman. Life for this woman tastes great. I hope that you want to join me and help me to make this a reality. It's a silent revolution, but it's very compelling. Thank you very much for listening to this.